Good afternoon, everybody. If you could take your seats, please. Thank you. Okay, this is a day like we have usually during session, but it's not during session. So we're going to call the Appropriations, Energy and Technology and Human Services public hearing to order for the LIHEAP plan. Let's see if there's any Representative Walker, any comments? Representative Nuccio? Senator Summers? Okay. Representative Steinberg?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Glad to see everybody here today. I sure hope we can do everything within our power to help people who depend on LIHEAP to get through the winter. Thank you.
Senator Needleman? Representative Steinberg, is it is Senator Fazio, and who else is the ranking member? Representative Marr?
Thank you so much. I think this is obviously a very important topic across the state, so I'm happy to have it. Thanks.
Senator Fazio, any opening comments?
No, thank you, Senator.
Senator Lesser?
Just incredibly important topic. Looking forward to hearing more and the discussion.
Representative Gilchrist? Representative Case? Senator Perillo? All right, we're ready to move on. Commissioner Barton Reeves is here for the Department of Social Services to start our LIHEAP plan public hearing. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Afternoon. Chairs Austin, Walker, Gilchrist, Lesser, Needleman, and Steinberg, and Vice Chairs Hartley, Kushner, Exum, Paris, Comey, Marr, Sanchez, and Mahoney, and ranking members Summers, Nuccio, Case, Perillo, Fazio, and Mara, and distinguished members of the Appropriations, Human Services, Energy, and Technology Committees. I am Andrea Barton Reeves. I'm the Commissioner for the Department of Social Services, and we thank you for the opportunity to present our LIHEAP allocation plan to you today. I am here with Deputy Commissioner Peter Hadler, and together we will present our appropriations plan for LIHEAP, and we're here to answer any questions you may have with others who are also here from the Department of Social Services. So we are ready. Okay. Yeah, next slide. It's like I just put my pen down. Yeah. Okay. This is perfect. Well, I am good. Thank you very much. So LIHEAP's purpose is to assist low-income families with heating assistance. As we know, heating and sometimes cooling costs can really be exorbitant, and we have a number of low-income families throughout Connecticut who benefit from the LIHEAP program. It is part of what's known as the Connecticut Emergency Assistance Program, which is part of the larger LIHEAP program that is federally funded and federally administered. Our target population, as you can see here, is really primarily households that have low incomes and a high home energy burden determined by the percentage of money that they spend towards heating and cooling. It also includes those that are elderly, disabled, and have children under 6 in their households. Excuse me. Income eligibility is at or below 60% of the state median income, which is a bit higher than our state social services grant, and that is $91,854 for a family of 4. We offer going on to the next bullet, we offer a basic benefit for deliverable fuel and utility heated households. There's also a rental assistance that's available for those that have their heat included in their rent, and what we call a crisis benefit. So that's for deliverable fuel households only that have exhausted what we were calling our basic benefit. We have 9 partners who are community action agencies that assist us in administering our program. We also have local governments, private human service providers, and of course, a critical partner are our energy providers. Next slide, please. So this slide outlines what our funding has looked like over time since 2020. So essentially when the pandemic hit, what happened last year in terms of our estimates and what we're projecting for this year. As you can see, for 2024, we had $78.3 million. And for last year and for the upcoming year, we're proposing flat funding of $81.7 million for 25 and 26. We do have about $7.2 million, $7.3 million with the rounding up in carry forward. There is a small amount in refunds, but you'll also notice from this chart that there was additional funding that may have been available in previous years that was federal governmentally funded that is now completely gone in this year. So the CARES Act we haven't had since 2021, but more specifically, any infrastructure money, essentially ARPA funding, that is gone as of last year. And we also have no more disaster relief funding because that's sunsetted in 2023. So now we are in the place where we were pre-pandemic, where we simply have our LIHEAP block grant, our carry forward, any refunds with a total of about $89.2 million. We do assume that there will probably be about a 5% growth over last year. And our numbers in this chart and any other numbers that we speak of are based on that assumption. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, our budget assumes level funding over last year, and it does project an enrollment growth of about 5%. Last year, we projected, we thought enrollment growth might be around 8%, but we are seeing that it's settling in at around 5%. Our increases, though, and you'll see on the next chart, just not quite yet, Sue, but just we'll get there. We will get there. Includes a basic benefit for both utility and deliverable fuel heated households. And we also have a crisis benefit just for our delivered fuel heated households. We have set on level funding for our heating system repair and replacement based on what we spent last year. And the same is true for the funding that we have for deep for weatherization. You might recall that that was at $1 million at one point. The actual spending was about $500,000 last year. So we kept it at the actual spending amount of $500,000 for this year. Some of the things that we've done, we have a new vendor portal. We know there was a demand for that, that's been established for our deliverable fuel vendors so they can enroll online, which really has eliminated, we hope that it will eliminate a lot of the burden that comes with enrolling through paper. We also have a new deliverable fuel vendor pricing option that was part of the outcome from our work group, and that will include a discount off of retail and margin over rack. And as you know, before we had a system support for faster payment to our vendors per statute, which is 10 days after delivery, and additional increased application processing timeliness. Next slide, please. So in addition to the chart that we shared before, here is our proposal with respect to the benefits matrix for last year and for this year. Now, you may recall, and I'm sure many of you do, that there was a point when we only had a basic benefit and a first and a second crisis benefit. Although there were funds that were available for a third crisis benefit, our allocation plan did not necessarily account for that because there was an underspend and an underdemand because it was an unusually warm winter. But the legislature did allocate an appropriate and allocate additional funding for heating that ended up being a third crisis benefit. What we've done this year is that instead of doing that, we've actually built in the crisis, the basic first, second, and third crisis benefits into the plan based on what we saw the spending was in the previous years, using some of our carry forward to do that. And you will notice that there's a significant increase in each of these categories from last year. So for example, for our benefit level 1, for our most vulnerable populations, that level has gone up from $530 to $645. And all of this is based on data that we have in terms of how people are accessing the benefit and the degree to which they're using it and the frequency with which they actually ask for additional benefits. So that is true for all of our benefit levels up to the different levels of the federal poverty level, as you can see there. So overall, we have an increase of a little over $200 in an additional benefit for each one of our benefit levels. And we believe that this will actually allow us to meet whatever the demand might be because it builds in the 5% increase and it already has actually now we have 4 rounds of funding that are also built into this plan. Okay, next slide. Yeah, we're good. All right, and that is it. You wanted to make that quick and to the point. Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Are there any questions for this whole, Representative Walker, do you have any questions? And, and, Representative Nuccio? Senator Lesser?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions. I did get some late comment.
Two questions.
Okay, I will do my best.
Thank
So,
you.
we did get some comment. Obviously, I know that the funding amount is a little bit in flux, and this is not a question, Madam Chair, but I do note that the appropriations process, at least in the Senate, seems to be potentially increasing the size of the LIHEAP program, which is a relief considering that the president's budget proposed completely eliminating the program, which would have been devastating for Connecticut. But it's unclear to me at this point whether or not a continuing resolution or the full appropriations process is likely to go forward. So, I think we're going to have to just be a little nimble. I did see a question though, that I received late, saying that the margin over RAC funding was tied to B5 biodiesel, but it's my understanding that B5 biodiesel is illegal in Connecticut as of July 1st, and was curious if the program contemplating switching the base to B10, which I believe is the new standard.
Yes, we are. Thank you for raising that, Senator. And we did catch that. We weren't able to make that change in time for the hearing today, but we're aware of that and we will be compliant with the law.
Okay, great. And then if there's specific questions I've had about for vendors who are operating multiple community action agencies in my district, we've got some overlap, and I was just curious if they can declare how are they supposed to operate it, and can they declare multiple terminals for their base price, or how is that supposed to work if it applies to vendors in multiple regions?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Lesser. That's a good question. It's something that we're still figuring out the best way to advise vendors on how to go about doing that. We should have additional details on those processes in the coming weeks.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Slapp.
Thank you, Senator Austin. It's good to see you, Commissioner. Yeah, touching on what Senator Lesser mentioned, it's my understanding, maybe it's changed since April, but that the Trump administration laid off all the federal workers who administer the LIHEAP program. So one, I just want to ask you about the impact that you think that'll have on your mission here, and what you think, considering that the president also proposed eliminating the entire program and said it's unnecessary. How would you assess the overall viability of LIHEAP? Can families, do you think, rely on it this winter? And especially the federal cuts that have already been made to the staff who administer the program, how is that going to impact what you all do?
Yeah. Well, in terms of having all of the LIHEAP staff laid off, well, there are many words to describe it, but it's highly unfortunate. We have an email address that we can use to communicate, but we've not received any direction to cease our operations, to not submit any of our grants, and nor have any of our other state partners. So we've been operating as if the office was still intact. It's very hard to predict what is going to happen right now, and it's actually quite heartening to hear that at the Senate level, at least, they're looking to increase the funding. I know that the president's budget has suggested that it would be eliminated altogether. I don't know if there's any political will to do that, but anything beyond that would be speculation on our part. We really are just continuing to administer the program in the best way that we can. with what we have in front of us right now. We know that there are so many families that are really relying on LIHEAP, which is one of the reasons that I pointed out earlier that we made a point of restructuring the program so that we could have the 4 rounds of funding. We haven't received any indication that that will look any different than it has. We certainly have just planned on administering the program with the resources that we have, because this is not the only program that we administer where the staff has been decimated. We have a SNAP program. Most of the people for SNAP are gone. Most of the people for almost every program that we administer, they've been laid off in mass numbers. And we still continue to have communication and interact with those that have remained and do the best that we can to deliver services to the people of the state of Connecticut.
Representative Steinberg?
Thank you for being here today. You know, under the best of times, and these are certainly not the best of times, you're very familiar with the annual dance for assuring the LIHEAP funding from the federal government. Putting COVID aside, the current administration aside, you have to deal with the fact that it is a bit of a dance until everything is certain. For the benefit of those on these committees, could you help us understand the likely timetable that you would get more information under normal circumstances, given the fact that there are exogenous ones we can't talk about? And what do you do, if at all, about gaming out scenarios, having a plan B, something along those lines, even coming back to the legislature for as much funding as we can get, so that you know, we're not in a tizzy come November, December, or before the next session starts in February?
And I'll ask DC Hadler to also join me in answering your question. This one of the reasons that we often have our carryover, and sometimes we are criticized for that, but one of the reasons that we insist on holding a carryover is because there's always a lag in the monies that we receive, in the gap, and there's always a lag and a gap of time between the monies that we receive from the federal government and the time that we actually have to start implementing the program. So that's why we are going to continue to keep the carryover. Certainly, carryover of $7 million is not the same thing as funding a program that's $89 million in its totality. So we start there by providing supports for as long as we can with what we have in our carryover fund. After that, we would have to then revisit the chart that we showed you to see what resources might be available. And I wouldn't know what the willingness of that would be. Clearly, that's a decision that the governor and the legislature and OPM would make together. But if we decided that we would have smaller allocations of each of the rounds, we would have fewer rounds as we've had to do before. As we did last year when we had the basic and then the 2 rounds, we would game out all of those scenarios. I'll be honest with you that we're really trying to think as optimistically as possible. We can run those numbers within hours. I don't know, Cassie Norfleet Johnson, I don't know if she's still in the room, but if I ask Cassie if she can run a scenario, she'll say, Commissioner, I'll call you right back. And literally within 30 minutes, right, she's got a new spreadsheet up that can show me what those scenarios look like. So it isn't a matter of timing. It's really a matter of resources as to what we can do. We're really hoping that we won't have to use any of those resources or, you know, Cassie's extensive expertise for us to figure out what to do and to deliver those messages. But we're prepared to come back if we have to do that, and we will have different scenarios that we could provide if we needed to, but we're really hoping that won't be possible or necessary, I should say.
I'm hoping with you. One quick second question, if I may. I couldn't help but notice that one of the items that you're already assuming a decrease is SNAP benefits. And knowing how this administration has targeted SNAP, how did you arrive at that number, and how solid is it?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Yeah, this pertains to, you know, what is commonly called Heat and Eat. It is a provision where we provide some LIHEAP funding to SNAP enrolled households in order to facilitate the calculation of their SNAP benefits and potentially enable them to be able to receive more SNAP funding. It simplifies processes all around. That was changed in HR 1, or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, to limit the households who are permitted to get LIHEAP funded monies to be able to do that calculation. It's now being limited to only those households with an elderly or disabled household member. The challenge, of course, is that there was no specific enactment date in the federal bill as to when that went into effect. And because it conflicts a bit with the way things have historically been done and the way you know, we would administer that, we're waiting for guidance. from our federal partners about the effective date and the start of that provision. So we are recognizing in that small reduction that it will eventually be smaller. I think, should the block grant be level funded for multiple years out and looking at the future, we would see that shrink proportionally more. So it's sort of a hedge and recognition that depending on the timing of guidance and the effectuation of the new restrictions on that providing of funding, that's how we landed at the number that we have. Historically, we will provide a lot of that pretty early in the program year. So if the effective date actually turns out to be later, then we will still provide it. If it's earlier, we'll have to adjust pretty quickly.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Up next is Representative Gresco.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Very happy to hear that you realize the correction needed to go from 5 to 10% blend for the biodiesel as of July 1st. Having worked on that for multiple years, it's glad to see that everyone's on board. But so my only question is, the 2026 plan addressed some of the vendor payment issues expressed over the years, the new payment option. They can elect to discount the price they sell for fuel to their regular customers, for example. How does that work compared to the margin over rack pricing option?
Yeah, thank you, Representative. We worked very closely with a work group of all the interested stakeholders earlier this year, pursuant to legislative direction to try and evaluate what the best opportunities would be for us to provide options for our deliverable fuel vendor partners. And we collectively identified these as two common practices in other states and ones that were worth pursuing and implementing here in Connecticut. So there's a slight difference in the way that it would be implemented now that instead of using the New Haven rack or terminal as the basis for setting all prices around the state,
Right.
We'll use 4 different terminals to account for regional and geographic variations in the price, the base price that vendors would pay to pick up the fuel. And then we would do a margin over rack based on that regional difference. We historically had used something called a county differential to try to account for that. That data had grown stale over time, so we really think that this is a better approach that more accurately reflects the geographical differences in costs depending on where vendors pick up their fuel and the prices they pay from those geographic locations. So we're hopeful that this is a good compromise, and that we determined the new payment options again with all the guidance from the work group and from what the collective decision making on what the best approach would be.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Up next is Senator Anwar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony, and thank you for the work that you're doing under quite complex circumstances at this time. We do know that there is a challenge with the LIHEAP at this time financially. We also know winter will be here, and we know there are people who are dependent on it. So it's very clear the needs are going to be not met. And we also know the contingency plan in your report suggests that if anything more than 50,000 is needed, we have to have relevant committees intervene. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
So with that in mind and knowing what's up ahead of us, should this be like, again, looking at the LIHEAP, if this passes today, is it not absolutely necessary to have this issue discussed in a special session before the winter?
Senator, as much as I'd like to put every commissioner on the ropes for things, you're asking the commissioner to do something that is decided by our leadership and the governor. So I think that question is more appropriately addressed through our leadership and the governor, not through the respective commissioners, because I think that we're really putting them in a difficult position. And I would prefer not to do that today for today's hearing.
Thank you. Well, that was my question. Thank you so much, Madam.
Thank you. Representative Foster.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And it's good to see you, Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. Thank you for being here. I think we're here under pretty different circumstances than we were a year ago when we were talking about this program. And I I have two questions. I know that's my limit, so I will be as succinct as possible. So the first is I'd like to understand the heat and eat provision changes because in the reporting that I've seen through the news, I feel like I don't have a great understanding of how the numbers of folks in Connecticut that's going to impact. And for me personally, I feel I've spent a lot of time in my like professional career outside of here looking at the intersection between food insecurity and fuel assistance necessity and healthcare impacts. And we know that those three sort of triads of like the public assistance that people get for food, fuel, and healthcare right now, all of those are under fire.
That's right.
I'd like to have a better understanding of the dollar amount per household that's necessarily going to be impacted through the heat and eat provision changes, if that's possible. And it's okay if I don't get that right now.
Okay.
Because I'd like to sort of wrap my head around what that means for the families that are impacted, perhaps also in the context of losing Medicaid benefits, or also in the context of perhaps losing SNAP benefits. I'm like imagining ABOD provisions will also, come into effect here. And so I'm just curious if we can sort of personify that change, because I think that makes it helpful as we're talking about what is going to be a very challenging budget cycle for us to think about the actual families, the dollar amounts that the average person is living on, and the dollar amount deficit that they're going to be facing with these policy changes.
We don't have that right now. Well, we can get you the information. So let me just say this. So the intersection of the SNAP benefit and the age is something that we can also talk about a bit more, because the work requirements for SNAP, the age has gone up from 54 to 64. But now make sure I get this right. So the heat and eat it eliminates everyone who had been previously qualified, except for those that are elderly or disabled. So there might be an intersection between those that are elderly and disabled that are also in that age requirement, and they might be exempt. So there's a lot there. There's so many crossovers of the populations that were previously being served by the heat and eat that may now be eliminated as a result of that. We're doing all of that crosswalk so we can actually see how many people are affected, where they are geographically, but it's going to take us a little bit of time to do all of that. But we can get you what we have so far in terms of the work that we've already done with respect to our analysis.
And then I'm just curious if there's been any changes, and I've sort of been slowly going through the bill's impact and the summaries that have been put together by the Comptroller's Office, for example, and just like, the Center for Policy Analysts. But what I'm curious about is if there are also any other programmatic changes. We heard about the layoffs from the central staff for LIHEAP on the federal level, but sometimes with staffing changes, there's policy guidance implementation changes, and you sort of referenced policy changes, I think in your second slide as you were going over, saying federal changes. So we know about the layoffs, and we know about the heat and eat provision changes and the work requirement changes, but are there other pragmatic policy guidance change that has come through that we might not know? Okay.
No,
All right.
there are none.
Okay, good.
So, and that's all reflective in the, Secretary Beckham is supposed to be sending out a report to appropriations to talk about changes relative to that, which is not relative to the block grant. So that would try to stick to the block grant. Representative Yacarino?
Madam Chair, I'd like to defer to our ranking member, then I'll go after her. Is that okay?
No, go ahead. And then, because
Okay.
you guys will confuse me and I'll have
All
to
right.
I will try to get everybody in. I'm not
All
gonna
right.
give anybody out.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner. Just a couple of questions. Of the 89 million that's allocated, or I believe will be appropriated, is that all Connecticut dollars?
No, this
Which is federal.
So this is
Is it all
federal
federal?
because it's federal. It's all federal money. Yes.
And now, so then my second question would be, with the 89 million, I thought it was, I just couldn't remember. We missed last year's hearing, I think, and I've always supported this program. Of that money, as of now, you haven't heard anything for being cut. There's just a lot of assumption and
That's right.
and so do you have a plan? God forbid that does happen. Is that just going to come back to us for greater appropriation dollars?
Yes, so I believe Representative Steinberg had the same kind of inquiry around this. So what will happen is if there is a cut, we'll have to assess how deep that cut is, what it looks like. It could be minuscule or it could be significant. And then we will then have a number of scenarios that we will run internally at DSS and then make recommendations through the Office of Policy, make those to the Office of Policy and Management and work in partnership with them to then determine how we would respond as a state. And then it would be up to the governor and the legislature in partnership with OPM to determine what we would do. Very much the same way when we had an additional allocation of resources in our last session. We did run the scenarios. We determined how many people we thought it would cover, provided that as background information, and then the legislature and the governor's office made their determination as to how they would move forward, and we'd use the same process.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Madam
And I would
Chair.
remind everybody that in both the times when we added additional dollars in for LIHEAP, we really spent very little of the additional dollars.
That is
We
correct.
did not spend the dollars that we ended up putting in. So I think that that's something that we should remember. We did not spend those dollars that we thought we were going to need. So Representative Nuccio, do you have comments? And then it'll be Representative Dathan.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. And sorry for earlier, for some reason, my volume on my computer. I could hear, but you guys couldn't hear me. So I just wanted to ask a general question and confirm a couple of things here. So when I'm looking at the OFA estimation here, I recognize you're reflecting an increase in the funding. And we're going from about 89,000 people served to about 100,000 people served.
That's our estimate. Yeah.
And is that we're increasing the amount of people that we're serving. We're also increasing the amount that we are giving them
Correct.
based off of what we're assuming. So again, this doesn't reflect any cuts. There's no need to, this is actually good news here from what
That's
we have.
correct.
I appreciate that. The other question that I have, and I asked you this last time when we talked about LIHEAP, and it's in concern with cross-pollination, if you want to say, basically. So we've got the LIDER program where you're giving information over about the LIDER program. And I'm trying to figure out, and I've looked through here and I was trying to find the exact numbers of how many dollars in here are attributable to people who have electric heat specifically. And are we then going back and validating, because the LIDER program is giving, anywhere from 5 to a 50% discount on people's electricity. So if we're going to have people saving a good amount of money there, I don't want to just give them $654, right? I want to be able to use that money for people who are getting other methods of fuel. So I'm trying to find the balance in here. Are we going back, reevaluating the information that we're given to Eversource and UI, and we're going to make the appropriate adjustments in LIHEAP so the dollars are truly getting to people who need it, and not that people who are only paying 50% of their bill then getting up to up to $1,900 on top of that.
Yes.
So can you clarify that for me, please?
Well, Deputy Commissioner Heller really wants to answer this question for me, so I would let him do that. Yes.
Come on, tell me all about it.
So I would first just sort of caveat, right? They're two very distinct programs, right? LIHEAP, and we're here to talk about the federal allocation of those funds. And the low income discount rate, our role is to provide information about people who are enrolled in DSS programs. So within the structure that PURA has determined is appropriate for providing discount rates off of electricity. We very much see those as two separate things. And I think one of the reasons it's important is to realize that it's almost certainly everybody who's enrolled in LIHEAP is benefiting from the low income discount rate based on the data that we provide, right? Because we provide information about households who are enrolled not just in LIHEAP, but also are enrolled in SNAP or Medicaid or other qualifying programs. So that information is got a matrix of hierarchy about how we put people into various rates depending on their specific incomes. And then we share that information and the discount rate is applied. We don't have a particular tie back to LIHEAP. Again, because there's so many different inputs going into what tier people land in on the low income discount rate. So I think it's, you could say that everybody who's on LIHEAP is likely to benefit from the low income discount rate, assuming that the match is performed correctly. But that's about as far as we can get.
So I think that's part of my concern, right? Like if we're looking at the maximum of dollars that you guys have here in the LIHEAP program, right? And somebody is utilizing that program and getting those dollars, but then they're also getting this other program that, whether or not it's, it's information that you guys are providing either way, right? So if we're not going back and cross-checking that, how do you know?
So,
that the
so we're trying to conflate two different programs. And in all due respect, if someone is getting a low income electricity rate, they're getting a low income electricity rate for their electricity bill, no matter whether it incorporates heating or not. So that would have to then say to all those people, you're getting it here, but we're going to take it out over here. So I think that this is a longer policy discussion that, we could bring up in the next legislative session. And we have the two chairs, and I think the ranking members for energy and technology are here, and they could talk about this. But I really think that when you're talking about this, someone who gets the low income discount rate in electricity, which is not part of this block grant, to be clear, is not part of this block grant, is money that they're getting based on the fact that they have a certain income level and they're paying less for electricity. They may have electrical heat that also is incorporated into either their rent or this. There's a couple of different things going on here, but I think that you're trying to bring in two programs which don't necessarily align easily within the confines of them. And we could, because we have talked about this, you and I have talked about this before, and I know this is of concern to you, and I think that we could bring in and have an informational hearing on something like this, but I disagree philosophically that we should take money away from people who are struggling to make ends meet relative to income status on heat and electricity, because all of them have significantly low income rates or abilities to pay for things. So do you have another question relative to the block grant that does not have to do with the low income rates relative to UI and Eversource?
So, yes, and respectfully, I would just say, this, again, like this is the second year that I've asked about this kind of information, right? And I'm not looking at it from the lighter policy perspective. I'm looking at it from the LIHEAP availability of funds perspective, and whether or not the state of Connecticut is doing their job to make sure that we are, whether it's Pure or you, it's the same. We're giving these benefits to people. We need to have a balance to ensure. And that's why I would like to see the LIHEAP dollars to make sure that we are using it to the most effective policy to get people the help that they need for their heating, right? So you can't have a conversation about one without having the conversation about the other. So if we have another meeting to discuss it, I think that would be great, because again, like it's the second year that I've kind of looked at this kind of information. And I just want to ensure that we're using these LIHEAP dollars to the best use as possible.
I don't disagree, but I think that we are delving far away from the block grant on LIHEAP. And I think that we need to focus on the block grant for LIHEAP. And quite frankly, if somebody is paying when they have their heat as electricity, we know that that is a much more expensive way to heat your home. So they may need actually more help. And if we are lowering their electric rates because of their income levels, then this is a way to lower their heating costs. So I understand what you're saying, but I think that we need to go back to focusing on the LIHEAP block grant, which is where we are today.
I agree. And I think, again, I'm looking at that. I see that they're kind of commingled, and I think it would be great to know that we're using the money in the best way across the board. So with regard to that, looking at the funding here that you have, after we approve this, say we have this great informational meeting and we get all this information and we say, okay, we're going to have you guys actually do the cross compare and look at, where the dollars are being spent and the best application of it. Do we have the ability to change your allocations in here, or are we stuck with what we have right now for the next year, which will mean I'll be back here on year 3 asking the same questions?
No, it's not. Okay, now it is. Thank you so much. I apologize for that. The way that the statute works as it relates to block grants is that any change that's greater than $50,000 has to then be brought back to the same committees of cognizance who made the determination about the block grant to begin with. So it would not be a change that could be made unilaterally by the legislature or DSS. We would have to reconvene this body and bodies and start the process again.
So we do have the ability to change this if we have this meeting and find, there's a better process that we can kind of link all this. We would just have to reconvene all of these same people here, review it and say, we're going to take dollars from here and we're going to put them there. We have that ability.
The statute has other steps that are in it, and I'm happy to walk through those. I don't have the statute
You don't
in
have to
front
do
of
that,
me,
no.
but there is a process to be able to make that happen. Yes.
Okay, that's all I needed to know because, I would like to see all the information and then perhaps look at this to make sure we're allocating dollars in the best possible way to get help out to people who really need it.
Understood.
Thank you.
Representative Dathan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And just wanted to follow on and ask, with our sort of federal cuts that we've seen to the LIHEAP program, to the SNAP programs, are we having delay in funding that's coming from the federal government and that we're having to float the federal government to ensure that our small businesses that are providing assistance to our neediest members are getting paid in a timely basis so that their services aren't being interrupted?
We've not experienced, other than the very early part of this year, when there was the first executive order that was issued, we've not experienced any delay in our funding for Medicaid or SNAP.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Secondly, in terms of cold weather days, I know in the past we have exceeded the kind of program allotment, and I know we have provisions in a differential of $50,000. In terms of, does the agency kind of track the correlation between temperatures and the cost of heating assistance and the number of ways that we can help folks to make sure that they get all their heating in time?
So respectfully, Representative, last year we did not exceed our funding. I think there was just a fundamental misunderstanding about the way that the program, around the ways that we had asked for the allocation plan to be approved, and an understanding that after a person exhausted their basic benefit and their first and second round of crisis benefits, there was a small cohort of people who had exhausted their benefits and then were no longer eligible for more benefits. But the program itself never ran out of money. It was not even close to running out of money.
Okay.
Right. So I just really want to make sure that we just know that there were more than adequate resources for people to receive benefits. It's just that the plan that was approved did not account for an allocation for our third round of benefits, which is why we redesigned the program this year so that that step wouldn't be necessary in the future.
So if there is an excessive amount of cold days and cold weather, is there any provisions that the agency has to help people outside the sort of emergency grants?
The answer to that,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The answer to that, Representative, is that's up to the legislature. They have to live within the confines of the budget that we approve.
Got it. So there's nothing within the block grant is my question.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Afternoon.
My question's about the relationship between the case management that's provided through Assurance 16 funding and the Energize Connecticut energy efficiency assessments. Is there coordination there so that folks who are receiving heating assistance are referred into energy assessments and weatherization?
No. So, Representative Winter, appreciate the bringing into another program that is not incorporated into the block grant. Understand that, but it's not really reflective of the block grant. And if you're wondering whether Energize CT does work relative to weatherization and other such things, that's a different program handled by a different agency. And so I think that we have to ask the questions of the commissioner that are relative to the Department of Social Services and the block grant.
Yes, I'm referring to the Assurance 16 funding. There's 1.2 million for enhanced case management services, which it says includes.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I would just offer that, yes, that's it's a good question, right? Assurance 16 is a federally required provision, and we do provide funding for ensuring that those services and referrals are made. Again, our community action agencies are often both on the weatherization side of things as well as the LIHEAP side. So I would venture that the answer is yes, but I'd certainly be happy to have a conversation further about that to make sure that we are making those connections where it's appropriate.
Okay, thanks so much, Deputy Commissioner. And for the program as a whole, for the 89,000 roughly households that were served last year, do you have a breakdown, even a rough breakdown of which heating fuels, like households, number of households using electric, gas, delivered fuels, oil, and propane?
Yes, we do have that information. I think we provided in some substantial detail last year. I don't have the full numbers right now, but it's approximately 2/3 electric, approximately 1/3 deliverable fuel. And of the deliverable fuels, the vast majority are oil, about 3% are propane, and less than 1% is kerosene, wood, or other types of fuel. We can certainly provide those numbers for this year as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Nolan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right,
Thank
I
you
just
for
wanted to
using
check.
your outside voice.
Just
We
wanted to
appreciate
check.
that.
First, Commissioner, thank you, DC, and thank your staff for being here. It's good to hear. You sound like you have great confidence in your staff and that they are very responsive, and I just want to let them know that we appreciate that. So a couple of questions were asked that kind of answered, but I just wanted to make sure in regards to the difference between electric, oil, and gas. Just because you use one of the three doesn't mean you get less money, correct? Or incorrect?
There is a distinction to be made. And let me just very quickly, I think I said electric was 2/3. I meant utility heated, so that includes gas and electric. So I should clarify that from my last answer. Everyone is eligible for the basic benefit.
Mm-hmm.
The crisis assistance benefits are only eligible for deliverable fuel households.
Okay. Thank you for that. And second question would be, I understand that you let us know that the total amount of funding that was in excess last year was not spent. And I'm happy to hear that, but I'm sad to hear that because I'm also worried about those that might not have really known what was available still, because there was a lot of talk that went on in regards to us running out. And I don't know if it was this last year and the year before that we added money. But I'm just curious also about the spending amount over the last few years. Have we been adding every year? And I'm only concerned with that because if we do go into special session, I think that we should add it in anyway, just for precautionary reasons, the amount that you might have added prior. So we don't have to go back in December.
So thank you, Representative. I appreciate that. The amount that was added last year was not necessary, and I know that we've said that before. And the reason that it wasn't spent is because we already had funds that our community action agencies had that were available to families. What had happened is that we, as I mentioned before, we only had the basic benefit and then the 2 rounds of crisis funding. So the families that ran out of who had already exhausted their basic benefit and the 2 rounds, they were the ones it was about, I want to say it was, I don't want to say because I don't know the exact numbers, so I'm not going to say. So it was a small percentage compared to the entirety of people who accessed the LIHEAP program. But when we tracked this all winter long, when we looked at the amount of money that was still available to be accessed, for those that had not exhausted their benefits, there was more than enough money that was available for those that had not exhausted their benefits. So the additional allocation was for those that had exhausted their basic, their first round of crisis, and their second round of crisis. And what we had said was that we ran what we thought would be the numbers, that if we added a third round of crisis and left the plan as it was, that number was much smaller than the one that was actually allocated. We went through every single community action agency. We had ads, we had all kinds of ways to reach people to let them know that that third round was indeed available. And we actually left it open, actually past the deadline that we normally would for LIHEAP assistance well into the end of May for those that for those that we thought that we still couldn't reach, that would have needed the LIHEAP assistance. So I would respectfully say I think we did everything that we could to let people know that those funds were available.
Okay.
And there just simply wasn't a demand. And part of the reason there was no demand is because it happened to be an unusually warm winter, especially running into March, April, and May. So then under those circumstances, those dollars can then in turn be converted for some cooling assistance throughout the summer, but it was not exhausted at all for the winter.
Yeah, and I think my worry is that we don't ever know what the winter is going to be like. So having that excess money there is, I think, great. So for people to think that it's not, just because we don't use it, don't mean we can't use it. Because like you said, we can use it towards the cooling effect of the year if we need to. So it can always be pushed into that.
Yes.
Which is good to hear also. And just
All set?
yeah. I tried. Yes, ma'am. I'm all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Rep. Nolan, if you need another question, you can slip it over my way.
No.
You're gonna get
No,
in trouble
you
with
can't.
with the chair. It's great to see you, Commissioner.
Thank
and
you.
just want to thank you and your team for the work you do for not just this block grant program, but so many other administering so many other programs that all of our constituents rely on. You brought up community action agencies, and they're largely responsible for distributing those funds directly to the families in need. Out in Eastern Connecticut, we have a large number of homes that require the deliverable fuel, of course. And my question is, I guess how would you define crisis benefits versus the basic benefits? I know everyone may see define crisis differently, but given the 5% increase in the projected caseload for this program, do you foresee that there's going to be obviously the money available to provide supports for those families that for the crisis benefits families?
We do, which is why we're proposing the allocation in the manner that we are. We do propose that if there are no dramatic cuts that happen at the federal level, that we will be able to provide the basic benefit and then the 3 rounds of the crisis benefit, because that seems to be the cadence that I think brings comfort to the families that we serve and to all of you, as legislators who are accountable to your constituents, as we are as well. So that is why we fashioned the plan in the way that we did. So there are specific definitions for a crisis benefit, but generally speaking, a family will get, if they qualify under the levels, the federal poverty levels as they're defined, they will get the basic benefit. Then if they can demonstrate, which usually is not a very difficult thing to do, that they have a certain level of fuel that will not last them over a certain period of time, and that combined with very, very cold weather can usually then qualify them for an additional round of a crisis benefit. That is something that's done by each of the community action agencies who know their regions quite well. So there are families there are some families that only use the basic benefit, and then they pay for the remainder of their heating on their own. There are families that exhaust, as we had last year, their basic benefit, their first and their second crisis. And we anticipate that there are some families that will use the entirety of that benefit, particularly given some of the changes that may be happening, that we know will be happening in SNAP and Medicaid. And that's why we built in the 5% increase, knowing that we had to stay within the $89 million allocation that we have. And so that's why we dipped a little bit more into our carry forward than we normally would. You say that our carry forward is usually around 9 million. We dipped into to bring it a little over 7. And that is so we could provide the different rounds of the crisis benefit. It's really hard to predict what will happen with families and what will happen with the weather, particularly in New England. It's a difficult thing to do, but we do use the data that shows us year over year how families typically use the program and what we think the increase should be. And that's all, everything you see here is all data driven. It's all the information we get from our community action agencies. It's all the actual use. It's all the numbers of people who actually go in and use the basic benefit, the first, second, and third rounds of benefit. All of this is really based on actual usage, and that's how we determine what we think an appropriate allocation plan should be that we bring in front of you.
Thank you. And my final question, in the slide and your comments, you mentioned the weatherization barrier remediation program.
Yes.
Is that baked into the block grant? I know that's obviously
It
state
is.
state funding, but no, not state funding. No.
It's federal
No,
funding.
that's all federal
Right.
funded.
We're just
All
really
federal
describing
funding.
all the layers of the federal funds that we
Yes.
get and how we're planning to allocate them. And that is a $500,000 federal allocation.
And that's administered by
Deep.
by Deep.
Deep.
Got it.
Yes.
All right. So I will save those questions for Deep.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And there is not a deep person coming up today, so you can save those questions for deep offline. Representative Mara.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. Appreciate you guys coming in and talking with us today. I guess, you know, and I know I'm limited in what I can ask, which I find very constraining because it's hard to talk about low income and energy assistance in just one little segment. So I do look forward, I hope the chair of this committee pulls a conversation together in the future so we can talk about it holistically. Because I think there's an issue there. You say this is all data-driven data, which I really appreciate. I think having the data in front of us is important. And you're getting your, sound like you were getting your information from the, where exactly do you get this information from? Community?
We get actual usage data from our community action agencies.
Okay.
Right, those that are responsible for administering the program. So we know by region how many families are accessing it, when they actually make applications, what the surges in applications are, how that correlates to weather patterns. We know all of this from the work that our community action agencies do.
Okay. And I think that's very helpful for us to know and us to understand how you're looking at who needs, who have energy needs holistically, because I think that's what you're doing here. What I would like to see come into the mix is you to be getting the data from who the LIDAR is going to get in the future. And that's not what we're talking about today. Clearly, we've stated that, but to have that as a point for collecting data, I think would be very important. That I know you will be giving information to the utility companies to implement it, but the data needs to come back to you, because you need to, like, if we look at holistically what we're doing as a government, the right hand needs to know what the left hand is doing to make sure that we are most efficient in how we move forward and making sure we allocate our funds. So I'm hoping when we have this conversation in the future that can be part of the conversation, and that can be part of the data that we look at when we're looking at the LIHEAP grant in particular. And I'm hoping that it can be a collaborative process, and that you guys will be much more involved in the future in any sort of low income discount rate. So sorry, more of a comment, but
I was going to ask, is there a question in there? No.
I think since I was limited on the questions I could have, I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Senator Fazio.
Thank you, Senator. For my own understanding and information, because the low income discount rate program is relatively new, whereas LIHEAP is a little older, I did want to understand how the calculations for the benefits for individual residents are interactive of one another. So, for instance, the low income discount rate, when it's applied to winter months for someone's utility bill, it could provide a discount up to around 50%. is the LIHEAP grant then formulated off of that discounted rate?
No.
Or is it?
I'm going to answer that for you, Senator Fazio. Again, we are not conflating two things. The low income rate that's on utilities is not something that DSS has access to relative to who is getting what from the utilities. So for example, Norwich Public Utilities came up with a low income rate a long time ago before Pura decided to work on Eversource and UI. And Norwich Public Utilities did this because they found that the people would actually have the opportunity to pay their bills and they would work better with the community. That does not mean that what Norwich Public Utilities has for low income rates is then sent down to the PVCCA, which is the Community Action Agency, and they determine what they're going to get for LIHEAP. That is not the same thing. It just doesn't work that way. If you want to combine those programs, that is something that you could work with in the next legislative session with the energy and technology chairs, and as you are the ranking member on there, along with Representative Mara. If you guys want to incorporate that, that's something that you could do then. But that is not what we're here today on. We are only here today on the allocation plan for the LIHEAP program, which is not bringing in the other programs relative to the low-income utility rates. So I just want to clear that up.
And because the program is relatively new, I was asking how the LIHEAP benefits to individuals are formulated, and your answer does help clarify how it's formulated, and I think that is something that we'll want to consider in the future, given the lighter costs, in order to make sure that the benefits are structured in the best way for the state and the public.
And I would point out that, Senator Fazio, and I know that you care deeply about this, that these people are not people that have a lot of money at their hands, that they're not frivolous with this. Many of the people that I go to their doors they keep their heat just like I do at 61 degrees. So it's not like they're keeping it at 90 and overusing their benefits. They're trying as much as possible to keep their house at a level that does not freeze their pipes. And that's what they're doing. So I'm not certain that we're not biting off our nose to spite our face to take a few more pennies away from the poorest of the poor. And so I just want to, I imagine that we have the same opinion on helping out those people at that level. But we have spent a lot of time of this block grant hearing this time to conflate two programs which are helping out those people who don't have anything. And I don't know how much more we can take away from people that don't have anything. So I'm a little bit concerned about that's where we think we're going to save money. And make sure that other people have it. But these are all people who don't have anything right now.
Well,
and so I'm worried about the fact that we're trying to take more away from those people at the bottom of the barrel who really need a little bit more help than less.
Well, Senator, I don't think I was asking a question about how the benefits are formulated and calculated, and was not making any sort of editorial comment. I'm certainly well aware that in a state with the third highest electric rates in the country, that people are very much hurting, and we have to be very careful about creating policies that protect everyone and make the state affordable for everyone. But I was asking a specific question about how the benefits are formulated for my own clarification, and the answer you provided did help clarify it. So thank you.
I know you care about people, Senator Fazio. I'm not saying that you don't care about those that are excessively poor. Up next is Representative Mashinsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask, since the LIHEAP office in DC has been eliminated and there's nobody there, or do you envision, or does a commissioner envision, that we will be allowed to set our own rules and that the feds will simply give us a block grant without instruction?
No, I do not anticipate that happening at all. At all. I think that obviously the elimination of everyone who works at the program was like a precursor to,
Commissioner, if I
yes,
could,
yes.
thank you, Representative Mashinsky. We've already answered that question. They don't see any changes happening in the programs that they need to institute relative to staffing.
Okay, I was trying to see if we were going to gain any flexibility if they sent money but not rigid requirements. And then
We
and
all
then
really don't know what's going to happen relative to any new policies that may come out. There's 8 budget bills that haven't been passed yet.
okay, and then I wanted to second Representative Winters' request. And we were thinking along the same lines that if we can at social services, if we can keep track of the high demand households so we can target weatherization assistance to them, that makes the program more efficient. And hopefully we are keeping that data so we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Representative Fortier.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. My question has to do with this factor we've been talking about where a group of recipients seem to get their basic benefit and their emergency benefits, and we're still looking for an additional payment. And I know that this affects, correct me if I'm wrong, just the deliverable fuel, meaning mostly the oil fuel. And I'm just wondering if there was an increase in the cost of oil fuel, or if there was an increase in a particular area of the state, if that was something you looked at to see if it was the amount of the benefit, not so much the number of benefits, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I'll ask Deputy Commissioner Hadler to help me answer this question as well. As I'm understanding it, I think you're asking what might have driven the exhaustion of the initial basic benefit as well as the 2 rounds of the benefit, and that is as specific as each household. Right? In some instances where there are households where there are more children, or there are people who are more vulnerable, or people with disabilities that require, and it's colder and the heat maybe needs to be higher over certain days. And depending on the ages of their systems and their weatherization, it really does depend on so many factors as to why some households will need more assistance than others. There aren't any really particular criteria that you can set that would be common across the board, except for when it gets extraordinarily cold. That would really be the only common one. But that's why the percentage of those that needed the 3rd round of crisis assistance was relatively much smaller than overall, because those households just really had different circumstances that applied to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Senator Summers.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 questions, and thank you for all the information. I think we can all agree that this is a really important issue for all of our constituents. But my first question is, why with the extra money, why didn't we just increase the basic benefit? That was one question. And my second question is, when is the last time that we looked at increasing the benefit for rental assistance? I know that's part of the LIHEAP qualification, and is that something that was considered in this year?
Thank you, Senator. I will note that the basic benefit was increased by $115 across the board in this current plan. So I think that we have recognized that is an area where people are hoping that we are able to put some funding, and I think we were able to do that this year. As far as the rental assistance, that is part of our determination and calculation about the broader matrix. This year, the determination was to focus on the basic benefit, which would impact the greatest number of households. But it is always possible for us to, re-examine in future years whether the rental assistance component of the benefit should be higher.
Okay, thank you. I know I'm not supposed to ask another question, but just a quick follow-up on the first answer as far as the extra money. Can you give me the percentage of the extra money that was given for the increase in the basic benefit, that would be helpful for me to know. Thank you.
I'll just point out that I think we shared that information both in our allocation plan and in the presentation. For example, I think the highest household went from $530 to $645 as an increase in the basic benefit. But that is also across the board, across all three levels of incomes of eligibility for LIHEAP, as well as both vulnerable and non-vulnerable households. So it's a pretty significant increase across the board.
Okay, I was asking what percentage is used for increasing that basic benefit versus the overall extra money.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I understand that. I will say, we derive our numbers based on the enrollment, the projected enrollment, and the number of anticipated crisis assistance benefits, as well as the number of people who might be in the rental assistance. It's a complex matrix that we use to determine where we can make adjustments, and we are trying to do our best to maximize our funding for heating season, and that is how we came up with this particular set of numbers.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have my questions all answered, so I will reach out to you. I think that rental assistance is something that really should be looked at also, but I will reach out to you because I know my questions are up. Thank you.
Representative Case.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and hello there, Deputy Commissioner and Commissioner. Good to see you. Nice hot topic here. Hey, so I see that the county differentials are changing or going away. How do we see that impacting the vendors? I know it's something that we've been looking at. And my second question, because I'll get them off the plate here, is when we're looking at going off of retail, a discount off of retail, how are we going to regulate and how are we going to look at that? And how will that entice more vendors to come on board?
Thanks, Representative Case. So the margin over rack is intended because we are now using more racks around the state to account for the geographical and regional differences in prices. The county differential was a different way of attempting to do that. And as you know, and thank you for your participation in our work group, it has gotten a little bit outdated. It was based on DAS data that was more commonly available in years past when there was more direct purchasing of fuel for your state facilities. And that number wasn't necessarily keeping up with the times and the constant need to have daily changes in the cost of fuel. So we think that by moving to regional racks, we'll better able to align with the actual costs of deliverable fuel vendors, and then, of course, have the margin as we have historically had it. As far as enforcing and making sure that people are offering the correct retail price and a discount, that is something that we are anticipating we will certainly be watching independently, but we may also require or ask that any participants post their price publicly so that people can gauge and understand that it's their common retail price minus the discount. I believe this is something that is sometimes done in other states, but we could also explore other opportunities for ensuring that there's consistent price transparency and that discounts are being applied fairly.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. And it's always nice to see things that come out of a working group that we're hoping make an impact. And this is a very viable program that we need to see moving forward. And those are some good talking points that we had in the working group. And thank you, Madam Chair. Those were my two questions. And thank you.
Thank you. Senator Lesser.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on some questions that I think Representative Gibran had earlier. So I know that at the beginning of the year, there's been talk about the reductions in force in the federal government. But then in addition to that, the president's budget proposed $0 in funding, saying the program was not necessary. And yet the numbers before us project an increase. And so I just wanted to I think I understand how it got there, but if Commissioner, if you or the deputy could just explain why we're projecting an increase when President Trump is saying we need $0 for this program. I just want to make sure I understand that.
Okay, I'll start. So thank you for your question, Senator. Actually, our estimate from 2025 to 2026 is flat funding. What we're projecting is an increase in the caseload, the numbers of people that we will actually benefit from the program. So what we've done is in order to account for that increase in the in the caseload, we used more of our carryover so that we could stay within our allocation, and because we're anticipating at the very best flat funding.
Okay, so this is not a question, Madam Chair, but I just understanding it. So the assumption is that Congress, whether it's through a CR or through the budget process, is going to reject President Trump's proposed elimination of LIHEAP. It's not that, there's additional state funding. It's just a carry forward to carry this to make up the difference.
Right. We are assuming that we will receive, and many of our state colleagues are doing the same thing. They are assuming that we will receive the same amount of funding as in the previous year.
Got it. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Representative Shake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. Just off of some of my colleagues' comments, at this point, at this moment in time, I'm thrilled that we have X amount of dollars and, moving forward in anticipation. I'm happy to hear about, potential contingency options. I know in my district in Stratford, through your office and then through we have many families and constituents who are absolutely dependent on the services that your office and partnership groups provide. My question is, with the changes, I didn't see anything, and I apologize if I missed it, but in the modifications for your case managers, do you have a change in how you're going to be communicating or partnering, essentially with municipals, right? Because the organizations that you have, they come in through different community organizations or municipal, whether it's senior centers, et cetera, just to better inform and be able to connect and increase accessibility to those who may need it. If I missed it in your report, again, I apologize.
It's related specifically to LIHEAP?
Yes.
Sure.
I would just offer that I think that our community and action agency partners do actually have quite substantial local networks beyond their sort of core offices. So I think that we try to get our broadest reach possible through local community partners. I know that there are partnering municipalities and senior centers who do assist in enrolling people into LIHEAP. But it's certainly a conversation we can continue to have with our partners about more effective ways of doing outreach to ensure that everybody is aware of the opportunities to be able to enroll in LIHEAP and what the benefits can mean for them.
And my question was not meant to be critical. It was when it was the end of the program and there were available funds still, I noticed that there was an increase in whether it's advertisements or whatever was being pushed out to let the public know that there were funds available. I guess then my feedback or request would be, that level of advertising to try and make sure that we're bridging a gap to reach people would be as regular throughout the entire season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Summers for the second time.
Sorry, I tried to reformulate my question so maybe I can get a better answer. So when the legislature appropriated additional funds for the LIHEAP program, why did DSS choose to increase the basic benefit levels, choose to not increase the basic benefit levels for all participants? And when was the last time that there was a rental assistance increase? And what percentage of the total block grant allocation is attributable to the basic benefit level increase? I hope those are more clear because I felt like I didn't really get an answer.
So I will attempt to answer your first question. The reason that we did not increase the basic benefit levels because statutorily that the language specifically limited it to a third round for crisis benefits. So we could not actually by law change the basic benefit. It had to go to the round of crisis benefit. That's why we did not change it.
Okay. That's part of it. Does anybody want to answer the other part? Thank you for that.
Sure.
I can attempt to do some very quick math in my head about the number of people who are enrolled and access the basic benefit.
No, I didn't ask that. I asked, when was the last time that the rental assistance benefits were increased? And what percentage of the total allocation is attributable to the basic benefit increase?
I think we have to go back and pull
We'll
those
have to
numbers.
get those
Yeah,
numbers for you. We don't have those today.
but we can get them.
Okay, that would be really helpful for me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments for the commissioner? Seeing none, Commissioner, you're all set. If you
Thank
wouldn't
you.
mind staying in the room.
Yep.
So that if we get other questions. Up next is the Consumer Council, Claire Coleman. Claire? I've been looking around. Where is she? Any one of the above. Doesn't matter.
It's the middle one. So, good afternoon. Great to see you all. Thank you for the opportunity to come testify. I appreciate the important attention that all of the leadership of our Appropriations, Health and Human Services, and Energy and Technology committee members are paying to a very important issue, which is energy affordability. And I've appreciated the robust discussion you've had with Commissioner Burton Reeves, and hope to provide some additional information and context. I am here today testifying as the chair of the Low Income Energy Advisory Board. Actually, we're now the Low Income Energy and Water Advisory Board, thanks to support from the legislature. Last year, we sought to expand our role where we provide advice and input to DSS and OPM and DEEP on energy affordability, energy efficiency, and now water affordability programs, because as we all know, those water affordability issues have become increasingly challenging. As energy prices rise, so do infrastructure prices related to water. So I'm here in that capacity. My co-chair or vice chair, Nora Duncan, and I jointly submitted written testimony, which you have, and I won't go through those observations and recommendations in detail. I will just highlight that the board was very pleased that DSS did adopt our top recommendation that we made this year, which was to increase that basic benefit level that I know you've already had some robust discussion about, but we have been advocating for that to be increased to reflect the increasing rising costs of energy for Connecticut residents. So we're pleased to see that is in the allocation plan. And I think the board shares sort of the trepidation that we're hearing here today about the reality that these funds, the allocation plan, we support the allocation plan and believe it is ensuring that funds will be distributed in the most beneficial way, but based on the presumption that funds are going to be here, right? So the recommendations that we developed were literally being developed as LIHEAP staffing was being cut and the president was recommending the budget be zeroed out. So we are heartened by the bipartisan support in the U.S. Senate. And we actually had a presentation yesterday from the National Energy Affordability Coalition about the work they're doing on a bipartisan basis to help ensure that the U.S. House will also similarly support LIHEAP. But I do recognize that given the uncertainty and the important role that you play in approving this plan at this time, that as some suggested, we might need a plan B. I hope that won't be the case, but I just want you to know that LIHEAP as a board is here to support whatever efforts are needed as we enter the fall and know sort of the fate of the federal funding. And I do think there are a lot of important questions today about the interaction of various programs. From my perspective, LIHEAP is so critical because it's federal funding, federal funding that assists energy customers. And we can utilize that and should be utilizing it as a primary resource as opposed to relying on other programs, which, as has been discussed, have ratepayer supported funding. So I'd urge this committee to continue to support the greatest level of funding towards SEEP to help with that overall affordability picture. So I'll leave it at that. And of course, I'm happy to answer questions today or going forward into the future. Thanks.
Are there any questions or comments? Representative Steinberg.
Thank you for being here today. Very appreciative of the fact that you've offered the help of the group that you chair. Let's assume for a moment that things go awry and that funding is diminished significantly. How quickly could you respond? Would you have to convene an emergency group, or are you just talking about providing advice as we move forward?
Sure. Well, our board works, we meet every other month, but we do convene special meetings, and certainly we have, our next meeting is October 1st, which is actually a significant date because I believe the deadline for the federal appropriations process is the end of September. So we would know by then whether or not there's a continuing resolution or there's a full budget. I think one of the additional challenges, if there is an ongoing continuing resolution, is whether or not the Office of Management and Budget would provide the exception that has been provided historically to allow for LIHEAP funds to be distributed to states. So there's an added layer of complication. Again, these are all potential scenarios. So I know that, we should discuss them if and when they happen, but we should be prepared for, September, October for reevaluating what state of the funds are going to be and what the state can do to help energy customers.
And may I assume that this subject will be an item on your agenda in October, regardless of what the outcome?
Absolutely. We've already flagged it. We had a meeting just yesterday to review with DSS their allocation plan and what our plans are going forward. And this August is actually LIHEAP Action Awareness Month. So many of our members are engaged here, and both in federal delegations engaged in advocacy around the importance of maintaining LIHEAP funding. And I definitely, this committee, our state legislature has always supported LIHEAP on a bipartisan basis. We're seeing great signs from our federal congressional, on the Senate side, we've seen bipartisan support, and we hope we'll continue to see that on the House side as they come back to determine the appropriations. So definitely put a plug in to all of you to help exert your influence in Washington and keep these funds flowing.
Well, thank you for the work you do, and we'll do on our behalf as we struggle through this challenge. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, you're all set. Up next is, we're finished with the public officials component of it. We're going to the public section. And first up is Nikki Colley from the Connecticut Energy Marketers Association. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, chairs and members of the Human Services, Energy and Technology and Appropriations Committee. My name is Nikki Colley, and besides me, I have my colleague, Chris Herbst, who assists me when I need it today. I am the Director of Legislative Affairs and Member Services at the Connecticut Energy Marketers Association, and we represent over 600 local family-owned fuel retailers that deliver bioheat fuel, propane, kerosene, and provide HVAC services to over half the homes across Connecticut. First, CEWA wants to thank the General Assembly for passing Public Act 23-204, which introduced several reforms to LIHEAP for deliverable fuel vendors. These reforms included 10-day payment terms, the option for payments to vendors by EFT, and same-day pricing. Additionally, we appreciate the Department of Social Services for engaging with SEMA and other stakeholders over the past year through the working group established by Public Act 24-145. The law's goal was to study best practices from other states in our region, ensure fair vendor reimbursement, and protect resources for vulnerable residents, which we fully support. Our ongoing goal is to increase vendor participation and offer LIHEAP customers real options for home heating. We appreciate the efforts that the working group at DSS invested last summer. However, we want to highlight a few issues in the FFY 2026 LIHEAP allocation plan as drafted that are problematic. The first is the discount offer retail reimbursement rate, which is proposed to be set at 35 cents per gallon. The rate is more than double the rates in neighboring states that offer the same payment option. For example, Vermont provides a 15-cent DOR, and New York offers a 13-cent discount offer retail. Connecticut's suggested DOR of 35 cents is not in line with the region, as it exceeds our neighbors' rates by more than 50%. We're asking the legislature to consider reassessing the discount to better align with regional norms. Again, we know that the department does not have to follow other states, but just a suggestion, and it's to help to keep vendors in the program and fuel deliveries flowing to those who need this assistance. The plan also adjusts the MOR, or margin over rate index, from the OPIS New Haven RAC average to the Data Transmission Network, DTN, which is RACs in Bridgeport, Hartford, Norwich, and New Haven. While this change addresses industry concerns about the price differential between RACs, we just need clarification on when the DTN pricing will be used for LIHEAP deliveries. DTN posts prices in the late afternoon of the next day, but the plan is unclear about whether reimbursements will be based on the posted price from the previous day or the actual delivery date. Public Act 24-145 clearly states that the vendors must be reimbursed based on the fuel's price on the delivery date. So we just urge the legislature to revise the plan language to ensure compliance with this law and to provide clarity for participating vendors. The LIHEAP program also requires that vendors who serve customers within a community action agency territory to get paid for those deliveries by that community action agency. We suggest that the LIHEAP plan allow vendors that make deliveries in multiple CAA territories to declare the terminal pricing payment will be based on the margin over rack deliveries that are within that CAA territory, and that is more so just for transparency. And I'm out of time, so we did submit written testimony where we did have additional concerns, and we would be happy to meet and discuss any of those with you guys.
Thank you very much. I do have one question relative to the Groton terminal. So the Groton terminal, which the regional, which is the only terminal in Eastern Connecticut, to my knowledge, and was this year going to close down. And they have most recently said they'll stay open for another year, but only a year. This is confirmed. If that happens, the Groton terminal closes down. And I talked to the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. I wanted this on the record today at this meeting because I am very worried that we're not going to have access to fuel on the eastern part of the state or access in a timely fashion. So if you could just outline what would happen if the Groton terminal would close down.
If the Groton terminal, Chris Herb, president of SEMA, if the Groton terminal were to close, it would, the existing infrastructure in that part of the state is not adequate to serve all the oil heat customers, including LIHEAP customers. So it would require travel to points of supply further away in Plainfield, Franklin, New London. But those terminals are not large enough to handle all of the volume to get through the winter. So we would have to go further away, Providence, New Haven, Wethersfield. There'd be a cascading effect by adding lines to points of supply that aren't used to dealing with that additional demand. And that would be under normal weather conditions. We'd be short, and we would need state assistance in the form of driver's hours of service waivers, vehicle weight waivers, and a number of other accommodations that we shared with DEEP and the leadership of the Energy Committee and others.
So thank you. So I just want to be very clear that the fact is that the infrastructure that's currently in Eastern Connecticut could not handle the workload associated if the Groton terminal should close down, and would add additional hours onto the drivers, which they would then have to get waivers in order to work longer hours Is that part of the problem in a nutshell?
That would absolutely be correct, and it is not desirable. Obviously, the hours restrictions are in place for safety reasons. We wouldn't want to have to push our drivers that hard, but a waiver, and given the option of having a home potentially run out of fuel, we would have to seek those waivers and would ask for your assistance to get them approved.
Representative Nolan?
Thank you for coming before us. And now that we all know that, the possibility of them closing, is there a plan in place? And if there is a plan in place, or if there isn't, how long would it take to make one, and how soon can we get it so that we can know what we need to start looking at?
Well, as Senator Austin pointed out, they are going to operate through this heating season. They have indicated that they will. There's no contract to do so, but they have said that they planned on it, and I take them for their word at that. But the planning has to now be for the future. We are encouraging, if they are going to sell, just not to close it and to sell it to another terminal operator so it could remain in service. If that doesn't happen, local retailers have been exploring additional options to build storage, which is complex, takes time. And so that process has to start now. With that being said, the current terminal operator hasn't said that this is the final word, that this is the last season. It's just that they don't have plans after this winter to continue to operate it. So that could change, they've told us, depending on how this season goes and their continued evaluation of long-term viability of the asset.
So who would be the responsible party to start looking at doing something deep?
DEEP, and I had a meeting with them today, and I'll talk to you about that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to commend you for the very timely emails you've sent we legislators with regard to changes going on at the federal level and the implications. That real-time updates have been very helpful, and I hope you will continue doing so. Secondly, I just want to clarify a point you made. We made you rush a lot to get it done in 3 minutes, but I believe you were talking about legislative action to reconcile some inconsistencies between the bills from 2023 and 2024. Is that correct? What specifically needs to be updated or fixed?
Yeah, so we think that there's that the plan is not following the laws existing. It exists currently in Public Act 23-204 and Public Act 24-145. Specifically, 23-204 requires the state have a county pricing. One of the things that I think was misstated by the department today is that because they are using multiple terminals as options for vendors to choose, that is a county option. Under the law, I would argue that 4 points of supply are not county. And I will also remind them, in previous documentation that the department has submitted in previous plans, county pricing, when it was established, I'm going to say 15 years ago or so, was established because the legislature acknowledged that the cost of operation in different parts of the state are different. For instance, if you are in Westport, you may pay a driver $35 an hour. If you are in Franklin, Connecticut, you may pay them $25 an hour. At that time, we successfully made the argument to the General Assembly the county pricing was necessary to accommodate different costs of operation. 2 years ago, we, I think, convinced you that we needed to have something different than the New Haven index to price all places because terminal prices were different. First, we acknowledged cost of operation is different in different places. And then we said, traditionally, the difference between New Haven and Canton might have only been a penny or two. And the industry was willing to swallow that penny or two for the program. That changed when we started to see 15, 20, 30 cent differentials. So we had two problems. You addressed the first one a decade and a half ago, and then we thought you addressed the second one a couple of years ago until this year's plan came out. And we saw that county pricing was removed. And I can see how it could be confused by someone who wasn't here 15 years ago that didn't experience why we changed it the first time.
Again, just to be clear, what are you asking the legislature to do? Simply require everybody to enforce the law, or do we have to make other changes?
Yes, sort of what we did a couple of years ago, right? You guys the legislature made a bunch of changes that were not incorporated into the plan. We came and complained at this meeting in August 2 years ago. We passed another bill, said, put a working group together and do what the law says. The department did that with the stakeholders, and we compliment them for those efforts. What we're asking now is that we know you're not going to make a change today. You never have in the 25 years that I've testified at this hearing. What we're saying is we're going to need legislation again to say to the department, The law says county pricing, it needs to return to future plans. And I hope no one drops out because they've lost that pricing. I mean, that's the whole reason why we come here every year, is just to ensure maximum participation, consumer choice. And I am now concerned that without that county pricing, that there's going to be, it'll raise questions to see how things will go going forward.
Well, thank you for that. I would like to carry on this conversation in advance of the next session so we can get all the parties together. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Baumgardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chris and Nikki, for testifying. Also want to thank you for your assistance navigating the Buckeye Terminal issue that Senator Austin and Representative Nolan have spoken to. I want to align myself with their comments. I would note the Buckeye Terminal is in my district, along with Senator Summers. We both visited the terminal, had a very lengthy conversation with their leadership, voicing our concerns with moving pretty much all fuel to New Haven, which is also a Buckeye terminal as well. I would note historically the Northeast Home Heating Reserve for the U.S. Department of Energy is at that Groton site. So this should be deeply alarming to the entire state, especially deep in our administration. With that said, my question kind of to Bridget with Senator Steinberg's questions regarding my my apologies. My apologies for the demotion, Representative. But in all seriousness, to kind of continue on in his line of questioning, kind of that county issue and how that would say impact the issues that we're seeing in Groton, where obviously we're safe now through the winter, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions. So what happens after that issue, and how does the policy regarding the county rate impact the Groton situation, so to speak?
Sure. It will have an impact on every county in the state, because in addition to the 50-cent margin over rack, the county differential added anywhere from a few pennies to a dime or so, I guess. So that's less reimbursement that they will have to be able to make those deliveries. I would say that the reaction is, can I continue? If last year with the county differential, and I'm going to make the number up because there's multiple numbers for each county, but if last year I was getting 60-cent margin over rack, and this year I'm only going to get a 50-cent margin over rack, even if it more identifies with the terminal that I am picking up at, which is reflective of the cost of acquisition, not the cost of operation, then that could be problematic for some dealers who have been on the bubble for years on whether they can participate or not. You guys have responded, and the department has responsibly responded to slowly increase these payment options. The other act that I referenced was 24-145 when the question was asked. This year, fortunately, there's a second option, but it's not fortunate. And that second option is a discount off of retail, which is 35 cents. The state of New York's discount off of retail is 13 cents. The state of Vermont's is 15 cents. It is not a viable option. The vast majority of vendors will not migrate to that pricing option at such a steep discount. In addition to that, it has to be priced off of the lowest price offered. So if you have a price for the owner's grandmother, because it's the owner's grandmother, he wants to be sweet to her, this 35-cent discount off of retail, which is 50% higher or more than any other state in the region, which Public Act 24-145 says that we were supposed to follow best practices in the region to maximize participation, which we didn't do here, clearly not. Now, those vendors are not going to be able to migrate to that, and they'll have to make a decision whether losing that county differential with that 50 cents is worth it anymore. I don't know the answer to any of those questions. I know that when we put this out to the members last week, we had a very short period of time to prepare for this, that they responded, frankly, horrified in many cases.
Senator Summers.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for all your help with the situation that you've heard now from a few of us on the Buckeye Terminal. I just want to be clear that I, along with Representative Baumgardner, have been there. We've met with them. I've talked with them multiple times. They did not actually come out and say they were going to close. They said the people that are storing the oil there have chose to put the oil in a different location. We have gotten confirmation in writing that they are going to continue through this next heating season, the winter. And I think it is important that DEEP not only meet with the entire delegation from Eastern Connecticut, but meet with the chairs and the rankings from the Energy Committee on what would have to be done here to either have somebody be able to either purchase it or run the facility. There is significant infrastructure that needs improvement at that facility, including dockage and other areas which would require a significant investment. Maybe that's something that the state will be looking at. But there are viable options for us to continue. We just need to make sure that we have the right people in the room. And I want to thank you for your help with that, Chris. You've been on top of this, as many of us have. I'm urging DEEP to, call this meeting so that we're not having these individual meetings with different senators and representatives. We should do it together as a coalition and also have the Energy Committee included, because it will affect everyone here in the state of Connecticut, especially in Eastern Connecticut. So I wanted to put that on the record. I think that's important. Buckeye Terminal is in my district, as it is in Andre's district, and we want to be on top of it for our constituents and for really everybody in Eastern Connecticut, including things like the Crosstown Ferry, which uses an awful lot of diesel fuel in the summertime. The idea of having to drive an hour away to pick up fuel is just not a viable option. So we will be talking to you as this situation continues, but I thought it was important to get that on the record here now that everybody spoke about it. Thank you.
Thanks. Did you submit any testimony in writing?
Yes, we did.
Yes, I
Thank
did.
you. Thank you. We'll make sure that our members get it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Up next is Gannon Long. All right, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Senator Austin. Good afternoon. Thank you, all the members and leadership of the committee here today and everybody listening. My name is Gannon Long. I'm the Chief Policy and Public Affairs Officer for Operation Fuel. It's the last time you're going to hear me say that. We're now doing business as Generation Power CT, or Generation Power Connecticut. And we're here to support the 2026 allocation plan for LIHEAP, which in Connecticut is known as the Connecticut Energy Assistance Program, or CEAP. So we provide, Generation Power CT provides energy assistance and water assistance for income eligible emergency Connecticut residents who are experiencing emergencies. Our organization is also a member of the Low Income Energy and Water Advisory Board, which is chaired by Consumer Counsel Coleman. And while GPCT does not administer CEAP directly, 37% of our 2025 clients qualified for CEAP. We're grateful to Commissioner Reeves of the DSS, as well as Commissioner Coleman and their teams for their work on behalf of highly energy burdened residents of our state. In particular, this year's plan increases the basic benefit for CEAP recipients. It implements, DSS has done a lot of work this past year, implementing a more user-friendly application system for users and clients, and also streamlining payments for the vendors to improve program efficiency. Over time, our data increasingly shows that thousands of our state's most vulnerable families depend on Generation Power CT for vital services. A quick update on our fiscal year 25 impact. We approved 5,665 households for emergency assistance. We served 13,775 residents, and we provided over $2.6 million in emergency energy assistance. 16% of our clients last year reported being out of fuel or completely shut off of power. And the mean SMI, or state median income, was 32%. 20% of our applicants reported a medically vulnerable or disabled household member, and 13% receive SSI. So here's just a few words from some of our clients this past year describing the impact of an emergency grant for a family in crisis. I've been keeping up with the bill the best I can. There's a late charge each month. I'm behind in all living expenses and need help catching up. My bill is almost $1,000. This is the reason I'm reaching out for help with energy bills. My payment history has always been good on time, current. However, then I lost my job. The only reason we're not currently shut off is winter protection. Only income in the home, was on disability until January 2nd. I have a lot of medical bills that increased and will continue with treatments. To respond to this growing need, GPCT is transitioning our service model to be more available throughout this coming year. And our next program season opens on September 2nd. Guidelines, schedule, eligibility, and information on how to apply are all available at gpct.org/gethelp. I want to thank you for supporting this year's plan and for your continued advocacy for our state's most vulnerable residents. I'm glad to take any questions or meet with you at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're all set. Thanks so much. Up next is Rhonda Evans, Executive Director for the Connecticut Association for Community Action. I'd say for the second time, but it's your first time on this block grant.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this for holding this hearing and for this opportunity to provide some comments on the 2026 Low Income Energy Assistance Block Grant Program. My name is Rhonda Evans, and I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Association for Community Action, who works with Connecticut's 9 community action agencies that cover the state of Connecticut. Community action agencies are proud to partner with the Department of Social Services to raise awareness of and to enroll people in the Connecticut Energy Assistance Program, CEAP, which is our state's implementation of LIHEAP. Last year, the CAAs helped more than 100,000 households apply, and more than 89,000 households receive energy assistance benefits to help prevent heating-related crises. And CAAs stand ready to begin assisting families with the CEAP application process on September 1st. CAFCA supports the 2026 LIHEAP allocation plan and just wants to point out our appreciation of the increased basic benefit level, which will help meet the energy needs of Connecticut's most at-risk and vulnerable households, and then also the inclusion of 3 crisis benefits for all eligible households, as well as for the continued flexibility in multiple application processes and methods to apply. The need for LIHEAP remains urgent. As many have mentioned before, Connecticut has a very high energy burden, one of the highest in the nation, actually. And for these families, energy affordability is not just a financial issue, it's a matter of health, safety, and survival. LIHEAP helps families to stay warm without sacrificing other basic needs. And it also supports local economies by funding fuel delivery businesses and service providers across the state. While we're encouraged that the LIHEAP funding was included in the U.S. Senate Appropriation Committee's markup, the long-term outlook remains uncertain, both in funding and federal administrative support of the program. As was also mentioned before, we know that there has been elimination of staffing on the federal level for folks to actually administer the program on a federal level. And we're concerned that that may result in may have impacts on the timely approval of state plans and the release of advanced funding, which is a customary practice. And so in light of those concerns, we're asking also that the state of Connecticut also consider contingency planning in the possibility of any delays or elimination or reduction of fundings. On behalf of the Community Action Network, I want to thank this body as well as Commissioner Barton-Reeves and her entire staff for the continued support and advocacy for this critical program. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks to me like you're all set again. Thank you so much. Your succinct testimony is always appreciated. Next is Luis Rodriguez, Senior Director for Community Services for Access. Are you online?
Yes. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Austin, Chairwoman Walker, and member of the committee. So my name is Luis Rodriguez. I'm Senior Director Community Service at Access Community Action Agency. We service communities in Willimantic and Danielson across the 26 towns of Windham and Toland counties. So Access is one of the 9 community action agencies in the state. Together, we work closely with the Department of Social Service to administer LIHEAP fund through the Connecticut Energy Assistance Program, better known as CEAP. This program provides critical support to families and individuals who struggle to afford the cost of heating their home in the winter. So the last year, Access staff and our outreach partners helped complete over 8,100 phone assistant applications. Nearly 90% of those, more than 7,200 households, were approved for benefit. That result in over $6 million in direct support to home across northeastern Connecticut. So the dollars don't just hit homes, they stay local. The benefit go directly to our partner vendors, local food companies who hire local driver, technician, and support staff. So SIP is not just about warmth and safety. It's also about jobs, stability, and economic impact right here in our communities. In addition to delivering oil or propane, SIP helps household repair, clean, or replace the heating system when needed. I would like to share one example. This past year, we worked with a woman who had recently lost her husband, and her heating system was failing, and she was worried she would no longer be able to stay in her home. Through this program, we were able to help her replace the system at no cost to her and give her the peace of mind she desperately needed. I know she sent us, she wrote, "It's such a relief to feel warm in my home and not have to worry about the furnace breaking down again, or have the audible smell and black smoke coming out of chimney. Words cannot express my appreciation for all of your help during this difficult time in my life." That the heart of this program. It's about more than food. It's about dignity, stability, and peace of mind. Of behalf of Access, I want to thank the General Assembly, Governor Lamont, and our state partner for your continued support of LIHEAP, and for the allocation plan under review today. While there are still some uncertainty at the federal level, it's incredible resourcing to know what our state remain committed to helping the people who need it most. We are proud to continue this important work and to keep serving the residents of Northeastern Connecticut. Thank you again for your time and your leadership.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your testimony. I don't see any other questions. So we're going to end the public hearing. I know you're all upset about that. And we're going to go on to the meeting right away. So again, I tell everybody, we do not leave votes open. Please make sure that you are calling your colleagues and letting them know that they must vote because the votes are not left open. We're going to start with energy and technology on the committee meeting, then go to human services, then go to approps. Please text your people who are not here or online and ask them to get online to vote. We would like them all to vote. So I'm texting people right now. Voting is starting. So I'm going to go to Representative Steinberg if you want to kick us off on the LIHEAP allocation plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I now call the meeting of the Energy and Technology Committee convened, and I will speak very slowly to allow people to be prepared to participate. I will ask for a motion to approve the FFY 2026 Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program allocation plan.
So moved.
Second.
I couldn't keep up with that. But it's been moved and seconded. Are we satisfied? Assuming there are no other comments, we are simply here to approve the allocation plan and not get involved with any side issues. I will ask Madam Clerk to take the roll.
All right. Senator Needleman. Representative Steinberg.
Representative Steinberg votes yes.
Senator Fazio.
Fazio votes yes.
Representative Mara.
Mara votes yes.
Representative Sanchez.
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Senator Maroney.
Senator Maroney votes yes.
Representative Ali Brennan. Senator Cabrera. Representative D'Amico.
D'Amico votes yes.
Representative Gresco.
Representative Gresco votes yes.
Representative Horn.
Representative Horn votes yes.
Senator Marr. Senator McCrory. Representative Mushinski.
Mushinski votes yes.
Representative Piscopo.
Piscopo votes yes.
Representative Yacarino.
Yacarino votes yes.
Representative Buxbaum.
Buxbaum votes yes.
Representative Constantine.
Rep. Constantine votes yes.
Representative Buckby.
Representative Buckby votes yes.
Representative Foster.
Rep. Foster votes yes.
Representative Jensen.
Representative Jensen votes yes.
Representative Canino.
Representative Canino votes yes.
Representative Winter.
Representative Winter votes yes.
Representative Gauthier.
Representative Gauthier, yes.
Representative Hughes.
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Representative Baumgardner.
Rep. Baumgardner votes yes.
Senator Needleman. Is there anyone whose name I did not call?
That's energy.
Senator McCrory.
Yes, that's me. I vote
How-
yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Hello?
We are all set.
Hello?
Representative Reyes.
Appropriations members who are attempting to get our attention and wanting to vote, it ain't your turn yet. Stay tuned.
Madam Clerk, do we have a tally?
All right, total tally is 23 yes, 0 no, 3 absent. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion passes. The Energy and Technology Committee is in recess.
Thank you. I would like to, the chair convene the meeting of the Human Services Committee. I am asking for a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 low-income heat and home energy assistance program allegation plan.
So move, Rep. Case.
Second. Representative Dathan.
Okay, first Representative Case and second Rep. Dathan. Any comments or opposition? No. Okay, so if the chair could, if the Madam Clerk could call the roll, then we will.
Representative Gilchrist. Senator Lesser.
Senator Lester in the affirmative.
Representative Case.
Representative Case votes yes.
Senator Perillo. Representative Comey.
Representative Comey votes yes.
Senator Marr.
Senator Marr votes yes.
Senator Anwar,
Senator Anwar votes yes.
Representative Butler,
Representative Butler votes yes.
Representative Dathan,
Representative Dathan votes yes.
Representative D'Amico,
D'Amico votes yes.
Representative Fortier,
Representative Fortier votes yes.
Senator Gaston,
Senator Gaston votes yes.
Representative Hughes,
Representative Hughes votes yes.
Representative Johnson, Representative Kit.
Representative Johnson votes yes. Sorry.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Kit. Representative Master Francesca. Representative Meskers. Representative Pizzuto.
Representative Pizzuto votes yes.
Representative Kit votes yes.
Could you say that again, please, Representative Kit? Okay.
Representative Kit or Representative Pizzuto?
Representative Kit, I see you now.
Okay.
Rep Pizzuto votes yes.
Yes, and Rep Kit, you also vote yes. Okay. Representative Santiago.
Yes,
Santiago
I
votes
did.
yes.
Yes, I did. I voted yes.
Thank you, Rep Kit. Representative Scott.
Representative Scott votes yes.
Representative Shake.
Yes.
Representative Stewart. Representative Vale.
Dale votes yes.
Madam Administrator, just so you know, Representative Vale has the wrong name on his, Adam Johnson was on there. Thank you.
I don't know. I don't know what that's from. I didn't. That's
It's fine. It's fine. I just want to make sure it's right. That's all.
Thank you, Senator.
Do any other Human Services members need to vote?
Madam Clerk, this is Representative Santiago. Did you get my vote?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a reminder that votes will not be held open. Get up.
Senator Perillo? Okay, the roll call is complete.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you announce tally, please?
Yes, 18 yay, 0 nay, 5 absent.
Okay, thank you. And motion passes, and we will recess.
Thank you. I'm going to convene the meeting for the LIHEAP, the FFY 26 Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program Allocation Plan for Appropriations. Is there a motion? Moved by Representative Nuccio. Is there a second?
Second.
By Senator Hartley. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Administrator, could you please call the roll?
Senator Austin.
Senator Austin votes in the affirmative.
Representative Walker.
Representative Walker votes in the affirmative.
Senator Hartley.
Senator Hartley in the affirmative.
I need to see him now.
Senator Hartley in the affirmative.
There, got you now.
Okay.
I got the lovely Senator Kushner. Senator Kushner.
Good morning, good afternoon. Senator Kushner votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Exum.
Representative Exum votes yes.
Representative Paris.
Representative Paris votes yes.
Ah, hello. Senator Summers.
Summers votes yes.
Representative Nuccio. Representative Ackert. Okay. Okay, Representative Ackert, are you on yet? We know you're trying.
Representative Ackert votes yes.
One more time so I can see you.
Representative Ackert votes yes.
Well, I haven't seen you yet. Oh, you see him? Okay, all right.
Representative Ackert votes yes.
Okay, Taylor can see you, so you have Taylor to thank. Senator Anwar.
Thank you.
Senator Anwar votes yes.
Representative Baker.
Representative Baker votes yes.
Don't see you though, sir.
Representative Baker votes yes.
Ah, perfect, thank you. Representative Belton.
Rep. Belton votes yes.
Senator Berthel.
Good afternoon again, Madam Administrator. Senator Berthel votes yes.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Representative Valinsky. Representative Belinsky. I'm coming back to you. Representative Brown.
Representative Brown votes yes.
Representative Candelaria. Representative Corpus.
Representative Corpus votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Belinsky, are you with me yet? Okay, I'll come back. Representative Dathan.
Representative Dathan votes yes. Thank you, Madam Chair, or Madam Administrator.
Thank you, madam. Representative DiCaprio.
DiCaprio votes yes.
Representative DeFranzo.
Franzo votes yes.
Representative Delaney. No. Representative Felipe.
Representative Felipe votes yes.
Oh, I skipped Representative Dillon. My apologies. Representative Dillon.
Representative Dillon votes yes, and good luck on your job.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Senator Flexer.
Senator Flexer votes yes.
Representative Foncello.
Moncello votes yes.
Representative Garabay.
Garabay votes yes.
Representative Gibson.
Representative Gibson votes yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Representative Gilchrist, Representative Gonzalez. Senator Gordon.
Senator Gordon votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Haddad.
Representative Haddad votes yes.
Senator Harding.
Harding votes yes.
One more time.
Harding votes yes.
Thank you, sir. Representative Hoxa. No. Representative Johnson.
Representative Johnson votes yes.
Representative Cabros DeGraw.
Cabros DeGraw votes yes.
Oh, can't see you.
Cabros DeGraw votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Kennedy.
Kennedy votes yes.
I like the wardrobe change.
Thank you.
Representative Khan.
Representative Khan votes yes.
Thank you. Representative Leeper. Senator Lesser.
Senator Lesser votes aye.
Representative Martinez. No? Senator Marks.
Marks votes yes.
Representative McCarthy Vahey.
Representative McCarthy Vahey votes yes.
Senator McCrory.
Hey there, Susan. Senator McCoy votes yes.
Thank you, sir. Representative Nolan.
Nolan in the affirmative.
Representative Pavlak D'Amato.
Pavlak D'Amato votes yes.
Representative Reyes.
Representative Reyes in the affirmative.
I need your camera on, sir.
Representative Reyes in the affirmative.
Ah, see you now.
Thank you.
Sort of, kind of. Representative Rosario.
I don't know. Representative Rosario in the affirmative.
Representative Ryan.
Votes yes.
Representative Manny Sanchez. Representative James Sanchez.
Representative James Sanchez votes yes.
Representative Sims.
Representative Sims votes in the affirmative.
Senator Slapp. Senator Winfield.
Senator Winfield, in the affirmative.
Thank you, sir. Are there any members of the Appropriations Committee who have not yet cast their votes who would like to do so at this time?
Susan.
Hi there. Representative Sanchez, how would you like to vote, sir?
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Madam Administrator, do you have a tally? I do, Madam Chair. Total number voting 46. Those voting yea 46. Those voting nay 0. Those abstaining 0. Those absent not voting 7. Thank you very much. The motion passes. I'll entertain a motion from the Appropriations Committee to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Representative Foncello and Senator
Second.
Patel. All those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, those abstaining, motion carries, and I turn it over to Representative Steinberg.
The Energy and Technology Committee is now adjourned, unless there's any suggestions to the contrary. I don't hear any. We're adjourned.
Okay, the Human Services reconvenes and entertain a motion to adjourn. Anyone left?
So moved, Santiago, so moved.
Second case.
Okay, any opposed or abstentions? All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Madam Administrator, do we have any new business coming before us? Oh my goodness, I wasn't going to move from my chair because I've been anticipating that question. We have no further business, but stay tuned, members of the Appropriations and Human Services Committees. We will be gathering again in September for at least one Medicaid waiver renewal application. All right, so I look forward to anybody who wants to join Susan and I and Heather Bannister and a number of other people in the Cloud Catchers skydiving. We have our t-shirts on. If you want to join us, please let us know. And if you want to donate to our fundraising for veterans, let us know. There's also a Special Olympics fundraiser in rappelling down the Mohegan Sun. I'm participating in that also, if you'd like to participate in that. There are a couple of other legislators on that. So we look forward to doing any